Check. Check one, first test.
Yes, I can hear you, Carl. All right.
Mr. Moss, hello?
It's Carl.
Oh, okay.
It's Mr. Mouse.
Yes.
It's
Did you get the latest slide for transportation?
yes, ma'am.
I don't know why this it's supposed.
Be mindful, Toy, in that you're alive. So if
What is it?
Live. It's live. Like I guess the
Oh,
recording
okay,
already.
now. Mhm.
I can still see you.
I hope this is the right connection.
Yes,
Hello?
Secretary Jones, you're good. We haven't started yet.
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
I saw Tony come on. I thought I was good.
Okay. I guess we missed dinner.
Yep.
You can go on mute.
Mm.
Thank you, Mr. Kadeem. We are waiting on Secretary Bree. Ms. Hammond,
Yes, ma'am.
who will we have? Do we know who will be presenting for open session?
Miss Banks is one of the presenters, and someone from Mr. Watson's camp. I'm not sure if it's Miss Davies or someone else.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay,
Ms. Akinala will be presenting for transportation.
thank you, Ms. Akanalo. I did not see you on here.
I'm all here. It has my, I'm right here. You want to see my pretty face?
Yes.
Can you see me?
Thank you, ma'am. If I can ask, can everyone please turn your cameras on? I know it's a challenge that we're all in the virtual world. So I'm asking everyone to bear with me. I actually do not have our regular cadence before me. So with that said, give me just a moment. I'm trying to pull up the agenda.
President Cousins, I just texted it to you.
Thank you. Okay, I want to call the meeting to order. I'm sure we don't, so we're going to try this virtually. Someone somewhere shouldn't have the flag, so can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Kadeem, do you have that available for us, sir? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republics for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
Thank you. Welcome once again. We will get started as, there she is. I was going to say if Chief Banks available. I want to go ahead and get started. If possible, if Chief Banks is online, Chief Banks, can you go ahead and start us off with the tax levy, please?
President
Keep in
Cousins,
mind- Yes.
we didn't take a roll call.
Oh, my apologies. Thank you so much, Vice President Davis. Ms. Bree?
Mr. Heights,
Present.
Ms. Weiss,
Present.
Ms. Hubbard,
Present.
Ms. Val,
Present.
Ms. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Vice President Davis. Chief Banks, my apologies. I'm not quite sure if you are ready or not and how we have this, if you have your slides available, but we are looking for you to get us started on the tax levy presentation. You're on mute, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening.
Hey.
So are the slides up?
You're good to go, Chief Banks.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. This is a new tax process that the district has not done before. It is an option available per statute, and it is required to be completed prior to setting the tax levy, which we won't do until sometime in September. So again, this is an optional process that we are implementing for the first time. Next slide, please. So who is advancing the slides? Next slide, please. And I'll just mention that for the fiscal year 24-25, which is the current year, the budget was developed based on our strategic values. Okay, where's our tech team?
Right.
Go to slide 3, please.
They ain't acting right.
Well, as they are advancing to slide 3, I'll just remind everyone that the fiscal year 24-25 budget that was proposed and approved by the board, you know, there was a discussion of the general operating budget deficit of the $55 million, as you can now see on the slide, which means that the expenditures are in excess of the revenues. We talked about the primary reasons for the deficit, how we are still in compliance due to the fund balance, and opportunities to reduce the deficit, which we continue to work on. Most of the opportunities that were discussed were based on the expenditure reduction side. So today we'll discuss a revenue option. And again, this option takes us to the tax levy, which the board will set in September. Next slide, please. As revenue has been at all-time highs during the last few years because of ESSER, which we have known and appreciated, the board has really made the fiscally responsible decision to limit property tax revenue growth by voluntarily reducing the tax rate. So not only did we do this last year, but we've done this for the past 3 years. So basically, voluntarily reducing the tax rate always has an means that your future revenue is reduced as well. So we've done that for 3 consecutive years. However, there is a provision to undo or reverse that limitation by passing a resolution justifying why the tax rate needs to go back to what it could have been before it was reduced. That is the resolution we are seeking approval for today. It needs to be approved prior to setting the tax levy in December. So what this resolution does is give the board the option to set the tax levy at a rate higher if it so chooses. We will go through the regular tax rate process and presentation as we do every year again, and that will happen in September. Next slide, please. So the board, you should all have a copy of the proposed resolution before you. And on the slide, this shows the key resolution language. Basically, to consider going back to the unreduced rate as an option, because again, when I bring forth the proposed tax levy in December, you'll still have the option to make whatever decisions you need to make based on what's going on in the district. So, but today, I'm asking that the board approve the resolution, which will provide the option to return to the unreduced tax rate for calculating the fiscal year 2025 tax rate. So finance will propose the new rate in September for your consideration and approval. And I'll take any questions that you might have at this time. I know that there has been lots of conversation, lots of news, media information. And I guess before you even ask any questions that you may have, I wanted to be clear to the public that this is not in any type of attempt to do something because the district is running out of money or anything like that. We're in a good financial position. There's a lot of information about the district, all districts on the DESE's website. So I just wanted to be clear that this is just an option for the board based on some of the challenges that we know are forthcoming. We just implemented some significant salary increases. We know that we have the transportation challenges ahead of us, and special education also has some challenges that we're facing. So questions, please.
Before you all start with the questions, can I ask everyone to mute your phones or mute your cameras or whatever before you get started, so there won't be any back or noise. So with that said, is there any questions for Chief Banks?
I have a question.
Vice President Davis?
So Chief Banks, are you asking us to vote on this tonight, or is this to be voted on at the next meeting? I think you're muted, Chief Banks. You might know that. Okay, there you go.
Yes, as long as we get the resolution approved prior to setting the tax levy, that would be fine.
You got muted again. Chief Banks, you got muted again. There you go.
Okay. So part of this process is to have the resolution approved. It has to be signed by the board, and I have to return the approved resolution to the state auditor's office. So there is some logistics that have to be done. So certainly next month in August, it would be fine. But if this is something that you could approve today, that would be even better. But certainly in August would be fine as well.
And just to be clear, again, I know you mentioned this. So in September, like always, we will notice a separate hearing, and it's worded as a hearing. You'll give a presentation. Generally in that presentation, you include the suggested tax levy, and you include that sort of language of how it would affect, an assess or how it would assess property values based on $100,000 or something like that. Those examples, is that right?
That's correct.
And
yes.
then that hearing has the opportunity for the public to be heard as well, right?
Correct.
And also, just to be clear, because I also saw some misinformation, the maximum tax rate is established by the voters, correct?
That's correct. When we had Proposition 1 that was approved by the voters back in 2016, our operating tax levy has a maximum of $4.50 per every $100 of assessed valuation. We are currently well under that rate. The rate for last year was just a little over $4.05 per $100 of assessed valuation. So that's correct.
So, and there's always Hancock amendment issues too in terms of increases, but under no circumstances can the Board of Education on its own go above and beyond the tax rate that is set by the voters.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions for Chief Banks?
Thank you, Chief Banks. Could you just talk briefly about I know we went through this process last year, but that process prior to your presentation in September, the process behind some of those conversations that lead to your presentation and presenting on the rate that's going to be proposed. Does that make sense?
Well, let me see if this answers your question. So certainly there is a process in order to come up with the rate that the finance office will ultimately propose to the board. You know, we receive our assessed valuations from the auditor's office, and we will not receive any updated assessed valuations until probably late August or early September. So property taxes, real estate property taxes are not in a assessed year. So this is a non-assessment year, but personal property is reassessed every year. So we'll receive those assessed valuations from the assessor's office. We are then required to use a system with the state auditor's office in order to run some numbers and, you know, get some information spit back out at us from which we can determine what is the maximum tax ceiling for the current year. And that'll be basically where we will start really looking at, would we like to take a voluntary reduction or anything like that? So there is a process. Along the way, we also have to post the tax hearing, a notice of the tax hearing 7 days before the date, along with what we are proposing to recommend to the board and what the revenue would look like should the board approve that. So yes, all of those procedures will continue every year as we have done them in the past.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief Banks, as always, the rock star.
President Cousins, I'm
Yes, sir.
willing to make a motion to approve the resolution at this time.
Is there a second? Looks like it's been a motion and second by Board Member Hikes, who can't seem to take mute off his phone. Is that a second, Board Member
Yeah.
Hikes?
Yes.
Any other discussions? Ms. Hammond?
Mr. Heights,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
Ms. Bowell,
Abstain.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins,
Yes.
motion passed.
Next up, I think we have Ms. Akanoka and Mr. Chief Watson. Is that correct? Transportation?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, President Cousin, Vice President Davis, Superintendent Dr. Scarlett, and all the board members. Thank you for allowing me to present the transportation updates today. My name is Tony Akinola, and I will be walking you through the latest developments in our transportation strategies. Next slide, please. Today, we cover updates on implementation of approved strategies, the communication and engagement, our next steps, and then we go further to questions and discussions later on. This slide, the approved strategies, these are the 5 approved strategies that the board approved the last board meeting, and these are to navigate the current transportation challenges that we have. Next slide. And this slide is about the bell time changes. And just to let the board know what we had done since the time changes, we had communicated with families that were impacted by these changes. All our families were impacted one way or the other, some 5 minutes, or some to up to 65 minutes. But we also targeted those 3 schools that were shifted from second tier to first tier, and we to communicate with the parents about the 50 minutes bell time change. And we do have the Let's Talk that we've established, and this is going to be ongoing just to get feedback from our parents on a continual basis. And so far, since these strategies were made public, we've received about 14 responses. And we received some positive feedback, and we are sure that we're going to receive some concerns. And the concerns are about the later start time for the elementary school when it gets dark during the winter, and and then there's this issue about the healthy start times. But you will recall that we explained about the healthy start times, that if we had to, we're exploring that, but if we had to implement those the healthy times, it would have taken us back. We will increase our routes, and at this moment, we do not have the resources to implement it. Next is opt-out campaign. The opt-out campaign, we created and we distributed the opt-out survey online. And as recently as of today, we've received 370 responses. We're asking that we're really hoping that we can increase this because it will be beneficial to us. And we are hoping that our parents that have the capability of transporting their kids to school, we opt out of district provided transportation. Next slide, please. The stop consolidation routing, we've established that. They were currently putting a final touch to our routes, and once that is finished, we thought we were going to be able to finish today, but we had to extend it to look at it. We went back to review the routes. So, and then once that is by Friday, we should be getting the information, getting the data ready to be sent to the communicator with the parents. And we talk about the public transit. We identify about 1,700 students that met the criteria of no transfer. These students will only take one bus to school. And then we considered the criteria of walk distance from their home to the stop, from their stop to school, and also the commuting time. The commuting time is less than 50 minutes. On both ends, to school and back to home. And communication will be sent out this Friday about those 1,700 students. And we're having continual meeting about safety with the Metro Transit team and SLPS, because safety is number one in anything that we're doing. Is very paramount to us, and we take safety over any other strategies that we have. And to continue about the safety planning updates, we're meeting with several departments in the district and even outside the district to implement safety for transportation. We have identified, and I mentioned that at the last meeting, we identified areas of concern, and we're going to be deploying our safety officers. Will be scoping that areas for us. We will give them the details of the stops in the AM and PM. And we also, if you can see me wearing it, if I could turn around, I don't know whether you can see transportation. This is a vest that we created, and officers or our volunteers will be wearing so that students and the community can identify them when they're outside at those stops. The Metro, with the meeting we have with Metro, we have another meeting with them. We have weekly meetings with Metro. Metro will be providing security at stops where we have a high concentration of students, especially school stops in the PM. With the Metro Public Safety will monitor our buses, where any problematic buses that they identify, they will have the safety officers following those buses, and they can get on the buses as well. Because of licensing issue, our safety officers cannot get on public transportation, even if our students are on these buses. And we continue to develop a safety program, which we provide additional monitoring basically on our buses. Next slide, please. Additional updates. We're finalizing agreements with all the vendors. We have 19 vendors so far. We also identified, if you recall that I mentioned the out of attendance, the out of boundary students at the last board presentation, and we identified approximately 1,500 students. These students are now, they are neighborhood students, they're not magnet students, they're not ELL, they're not spec student, they live outside of the boundaries, and that these students will not receive transportation. Some of the students received transportation last year. I pulled this data about this 1,500 before this meeting, and so if I filter because there are some of these students are walkers, even though they're out of their boundary because they live in the border of their school and another school. So some of these students are walkers. So the number is not actually 1,500. It would maybe a few hundred, less than the 1,500. But I pulled that number because I wanted to let the board know that this is the number, and those students will be notifying their parents that they will not be receiving transportation, and this is according to the board, the district policy for transportation. The district policy states that we provide transportation to students that attend the neighborhood school that 1 mile and above from their neighborhood school or magnet schools. So these students do not fall into that category. All our vehicles, yes, ma'am.
Can I ask you a question? So you're saying that we have 1,500 students, that these aren't magnet school students, these aren't special education students. They're not outside the neighborhood boundaries, but these are students that have been receiving bus routes or transportation, and they should not have.
No, these students are outside of their attending schools, outside their neighborhood schools,
and they should not have been receiving transportation.
No, they should not have been receiving transportation.
But they have been.
Yes, in some cases.
So at this time, you're saying, I just want everyone to be clear. So at this time, your notification is being sent to the families.
Yes.
That technically you were not supposed to be receiving transportation.
Correct.
Because you were outside of your neighborhood school.
Correct.
Okay.
Affirmative.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up just to sort of clarify?
Yes.
So these students, it's possible they live further than a mile away from their neighborhood school that they're assigned to and could receive transportation if they went to their school that they are living in that neighborhood zone, but they've chosen to go outside of their zone, and therefore, because it's a neighborhood school outside of the zone you live in, they're not qualified for transportation.
Yes, sir. And then the information that we're going to be communicating with parents, we state that. So that information will include what the neighborhood school, the distance to their neighborhood school, and if they qualified for transportation to that neighborhood school. That communication will include all those details.
Great. That's great.
Okay. Thank you. And all our buses, all the vehicles we're operating this year, we have GPS tracking. But I just want to emphasize here, when we say we have GPS tracking, there are some of those smaller vendors that have GPS tracking, but do not have the parent portal. That is, parents may not be able to track the vehicles Those are the smaller vendors, 3 sedan, private transportation companies. However, because the capacity on in that vehicle is so minimal, those drivers and the parents always have that direct contact with a driver. So they have the driver's phone number. That was how we implemented last year. For those ones that didn't have tracking, we can track the bus. The parents just will not know that, okay, the bus is coming to my house, but we can track it. So we're working with them. A lot of those, we've given them a deadline for some of those. There's just a couple of them with no parent portal. I promise that they will get it before that they've signed contracts and so on, but I just want to know, want the board to know and the public to know that there will be some students in vehicles, but they are maybe 2 companies and they only have 2 vehicles with us. So we're talking about students less than 20, that the parents may not be able to track them as we track Uber, but we can track, we know where the bus are. Well, parents will have that direct contact with the drivers. So I just want to let the board know that.
So Ms. Akinoko, what is the problem? What is the challenges that you have discovered when it comes to that? I'm hearing that you're saying that there is no tracking system, but the parent has the number of the driver has the number of the parent. Yes. What challenges are you facing?
So far, we have not experienced any challenges. We haven't experienced, and I could state that parents love the fact that they have the same driver. They know this driver drive. They form that rapport with that with those drivers. We haven't had any challenges.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And we are working with the before and after care team on transportation of students to their programs. And I put this there because for those parents that were concerned about the change in bell times, that their students will be going to a daycare. The support that we received from support services, they gave us a list of all the schools, all the elementary school and their associated before and after school programs. So what we did in transportation, we had established bus stops at those locations so that we can pick kids up from the location in the morning to take to school and vice versa. Next slide.
Ms. Akin.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a quick question, and it was in regards to absenteeism, possibly due to transportation issues. Will there be someone at central office who will be collecting data within possibly the first month of the beginning of school to kind of track students to find out, how many days they're missing and what the issues might be?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What we have, we're meeting with all our vendors in-house, face-to-face tomorrow. All the vendors are coming in. So what we are charging them to do for the first 2 weeks of school is to take count of every student at their stop. So we know who bought it, and we know who did not. So they will be taking count of student count at stop for the first 2 weeks of school before we stabilize the routes. Because for the first 2 weeks, we always have a lot of changes. And especially the first week of school, parents transport their kids. So our counts are not accurate because and then the data processing and pupil accounting do the tracking too, from downloading from schools attendance.
All right, thank you.
Did that answer your question, ma'am? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know things were gonna.
Okay. So I'm not going to go through this. It's just a communication plan.
I had a follow-up question about the relationship between the bus driver and the parents. I think a key piece that's missing for me is understanding the availability of those parents. They're not always available to put their kids on the bus, and especially in the case of younger kids and not riding buses, that SLPS signage. I don't know if there's any way to add any sort of, I mean, I could order magnets that say SLPS on them and drive in my car and go pick up a small child. That level of safety, and coupled with not having a parent interface for the GPS tracking, makes me quite nervous as the parent of a 3.5-year-old. So what other safety and assurances can you offer parents who may have to go to work before they're, be getting ready for work before their kids get on the bus or get picked up, or have alternate availabilities? And I don't know if it's something as simple as like an air tag or something that could be provided, but some parents having GPS access and others not doesn't feel very equitable to me. So do we have a plan for addressing that?
Okay, let me take your question one at a time. All our smaller vendor, non-yellow buses will be picking up the kids. They are all cup to cup. They're picking up the kids from in front of their homes. All the buses will have signage on it that says SLPS, like a decal. They'll have it. The drivers will have IDs. They will wear an ID. Parents will be provided with the driver's name, the driver's picture, and the vehicle identification number.
And so what about that GPS tracking element, though, for, some vehicles are not capable of that type of parent communication, or they don't have a parent interface, like you mentioned. It just feels a little strange for a district of our size to have such inconsistency. And I know that we're working through a lot of challenges, and I appreciate the work to the effort that you've been putting in. But I just feel like that's just, what can you give me an idea of which students will have GPS tracking and a parent interface, and what, for example, let's say my kid gets picked up from curbside in front of our house, and then I get a call that my kid is absent from school. Who would I call? Would I call the school because the GPS tracking is not available to me to know where my student is, or what happened on that ride, or if there was an accident? The unity between the lack of, I'm sorry, speaking of children, I'm having a lot of trouble with some parents have GPS access and some parents don't, especially when we have this level of already very, very motley transportation.
Thank you, ma'am, for your questions. But the process is not changed. If there are any issues with transportation, the parents know to contact us. We will have all the information of all the cab companies online on our website. The contact person, the process step by step of, if you can find it, whatever the situation, we will have every step by step process online. Parents know to call here. What I was just trying to explain is that the buses, the vehicle have a tracker. What they don't have, there are two types. You can have a tracker that we can monitor your bus. Then you can have what they call the parent portal. This is the parent portal, is where parents sign in and they can see the buses. But I can go onto their website and know where the bus is. But if my kid got off, I know, okay, this bus got to the school, but it doesn't have the capability that you will have, that when you pull it up, it will show the face of the driver, because all other parent portal, you can see the driver, just like when you order Uber. But this company, and I'm talking about maybe 2 or 3 vehicles. There are 3 passengers, so we're talking less than 20 kids.
And Ms. Sakinola, you've talked about this in previous presentations in previous years. When we had the Here Comes the Bus app or whatever the one was before that, what was the percentage of actual people using that? If you remember.
I would say maybe about 40%.
Yeah, so it wasn't full usage. And then I know that the bus company always had an explanation that if there was a substitute bus, that bus wasn't, the information wasn't accurate on the app either.
If there were a substitute bus, no, the information would not be accurate on the app, but we can always do a playback to know what happened to that bus. Yes. But
I guess I'm just saying that,
yes.
you know, from as a user, the parent portal was never that great to begin with. It got better, but again, there were a lot of factors in there. Sometimes it didn't work, and it was because they didn't have the substitute bus. But you were still able to get that information. It just wasn't led to the portal. And again, it always seemed to me pretty low usage. To Ms. Val's point, you know, I always was curious about the bus, and my kids are old enough; they've got phones, so I can track them in a different way. But I just wanted to make that clarifying point, that, you know, I'm glad that you're working with the smaller vendors. And I mean, I would have loved to be able to know who my bus driver was and have their phone number. You know, and there were a couple I did. I can't get them in trouble now, but that's when we were little.
And Ms. Aguinaldo, real quick, so I know you said that the steps are going to be outlined online, but if a parent does pick up the phone and call the district office,
yes,
they talk with you, they'll talk with your staff. Who will be like manning the phones when a parent picks up?
We have a call center.
Okay, the call center, that's right. Thank you.
And when you call the 633-5107, it rings on every line in the department. So I could pick it up, anyone could pick it up. So next slide, please. On August 6th, we're gonna be having a transportation solution forum at Vishan. We're asking all vendors to be there. Metro will be there. Metro will have a session with parents that their kids to show them how to ride the bus and what are the information that parents need. They get preparing. We're going to be, but this forum will want the board to please, if you want to join us to meet vendors that will be transporting students, you cordially invited. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, these are next steps. We'll communicate updates to those students that we had identified that will be receiving the Metro cards. We will be communicating that information to them by this Friday. We're finalizing our safety plans, and we communicate the updates to all the school families as well. And we talked about the before and after care, and our transportation solution, just mentioned that for on August 6th. And we will continue to communicate to our families of every update. And we're going to be transparent with all our updates and all the strategies of everything that is going on in transportation. So next slide. Okay, this is the time for question and discussion.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
I do have a question. I know that there was talk in regards to the community having the ability to volunteer. I know there was a call for volunteers. Can you tell me what that looks like? If there has been sign up and people looking to volunteer, as well as can you tell me what does it look like? Have you reached out? I know some clergy have talked to me and asked about that and wanting to be a part of being on, the different spots and bus locations. But can you tell me how and what that kind of looks like at this time?
At this time, we had a meeting about it today with Mr. We've already we have an action plan in place. We're working with Mr. Ron Jackson, and he is with our field supervisor. They're good. We already have a plan, and they will be contacting the clergy and all this. There a list of contacts that they will be communicating with to see who's going to sign and what they wanted to get from us. The information we provided today. They wanted to know what the specific stops are, because we don't have the resources to have volunteers at every and at every location. So Mr. Ron Jackson is spearheading that with us, and there was a list of volunteers and organizations that he will be reaching out to. I do not have that information because that was communicated to me today.
Okay, and I don't know if this putting Dr. Dino on the spot or not, but I would think that this would go through student services. But is there some level of training that will be provided? Do we have those that will be doing that level of support? Will they be properly vetted? I mean, I know we welcome the volunteers, but I do want to make sure that we have people that are properly vetted.
Yeah, so anyone who's going to be volunteering will have gone through the appropriate volunteer and be vetted as a volunteer through all the appropriate background checks. And then there will be training provided to them in terms of what we expect and what they can do when they're at the stops with families and kids.
So back to you, Ms. Akanova. So you don't know right now if we have any volunteers?
No, ma'am.
So to be clear, there is still a need, because let's be honest, the clock is ticking. Today is July 20, I don't even know what day it is, 25th or 23rd. It looks like my eyes are deceiving me right now. So today is July 23rd. School starts August 19th. You all are working diligently, clearly, on trying to get transportation identified. I know myself, as well as all the other board members, are extremely concerned, as all the families are extremely concerned with the safety and these routes of where our children are going to be walking, getting on and off the bus. And there is a cry for help in regards to volunteers. My concern is what you're telling me is everyone has everything to say, but no one has signed up to volunteer at this time.
Yes.
Okay. It's okay to be honest. Honesty is the best policy right now. We need that. So my thing now is I'm doing a call to action. We're asking for volunteers. My question is, and my concern is, Dr. Dino, is I don't want to do this call to action and ask for these volunteers and we're not ready if they come. I want to ensure that the district is in a position that if you all get a flux, of people saying, okay, I've heard the call to action, I'm ready to volunteer. Where do you need me? Where do you want me? I want to make sure that the district is positioned to do the proper vetting. I want to make sure that the district is positioned to make sure that the people are trained and that we have them where we need them, even if we're positioning them to do the trial run. To be on those checkpoints where it comes to getting on and off. I mean, we know Metro is trying to work with us. We know we have our own staff, but I do not want to put our kids in any danger. It looks like we got someone to come in to give us some report on some volunteering. What you got for us?
President Cousins, can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Hi, President Cousins and everyone. We have been meeting diligently, and Chief Watson can speak more to this regarding the volunteer program. We have met with Ray Cummings. We've met with a list of people. What has not been definitive yet is the number of volunteers that we're going to recruit. Why? Because we're finalizing in terms of like the stop consolidations and identifying which ones have the highest need. We just met with Formative today. A call for action would be appreciated. We do have a designated staff member that is under Ms. Akinola's leadership. She is the safety and security person, or I'm sorry, road supervisor. I'm sorry, there was some mix up with the posting for a while. We do have a full staff that's designated just for the safety design program. And that's for volunteers for stops as well as for the safe passageways for walking. So we do have the capacity to absorb that. We have the capacity to direct them. We're designing the process for tracking how frequently they would volunteer. We're designing the process to determine how we're going to essentially give them QR codes to track how many students are at certain stops so that we can find out, you know what, we might need to increase capacity for certain routes in order to be more responsive. Additionally, Ms. Akinola's team is working diligently to make sure that there's a sweep program in order for if we find that students are consistently or chronically late, and so that we know that we'll have these hot spots where we need to continuously pivot. We are working on developing all of that to be electronic. So the reason why we don't have a full number of how many volunteers is because some of that work. However, when we meet with Mr. Jackson, is it tomorrow or Thursday? Or we're meeting with Mr. Jackson this week in order to develop a full, not just call to action, but to determine how many volunteers is the minimum, how many hours a week we're going to ask them. So that will all be kind of finalized by next week, Tuesday. So a call to action would not be too premature, ma'am.
So if I can just clarify, and it's Ms. Lemons, right?
Yes.
So if I understand, you're developing a process for implementing the volunteers, but the recruitment and vetting of volunteers has not yet begun.
The full recruitment has not. So what I'm getting at is President Cousins' call or essentially sending out an alarm, because we recognize that you all have vast networks that we'd be honored to tap into, is that I'm trying to communicate that we have the capacity to absorb that if people were to start responding now.
Okay.
We have already with legal and HR, we are going to make sure that everyone has a background check as well.
Yeah, well, if it's the same volunteer process that ordinary volunteers go, like parents to go on field trips, you're not going to get that done before December. If you had 100 people show up tomorrow, our volunteer process, vetting process does not work and has not worked in that level of speed.
So what he's saying is, please make sure, and I see Chief Watson sitting faded in the back. Please make sure that you all are focusing on the way that we have done the volunteer process. And Vice President Davis has the ability to speak on that. He applied to be a volunteer, even being on the board. And it took a year for him to be approved just to take his child on a field trip. Is that safe to say, Vice President Davis?
You know, I think most schools have even done away with having volunteer chaperones because they can't even get the information to determine who is up to speed. And so the entire system of volunteers in this district, and this has been broken for years.
Right.
But if this becomes, if you're spending time and energy developing a process for volunteers that need to be vetted, you're doing it backwards.
Yeah, we just want you guys to know. And I'm sure Secretary Jones wants to chime in on that as well.
So we will provide an update to all parties immediately next week in terms of what we find out. We will meet with Chief Sturger and Barry and find out if there's a way to expedite it and speak with legal to find out what can be done to ensure that we can reach this goal prior to the start of school.
Any other questions for Ms. Akanoka?
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I'm in the dark. But I really appreciated going to the Urban League Expo and seeing all the different vendors that were there to participate. It was really reassuring to see the faces of people who are going to be driving kids around. And so thank you for arranging that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Vice President Davis.
I have a question. It's not necessarily for Ms. Akinola. If there's anybody on this call, is anybody in a position to articulate what the plan is for before and after care for next year?
Dr. Borges.
Hi there, Vice President Davis. So the plan right now is we have a list of all of the before and after school providers, and we're going to be sharing that information out. I'm sorry, there was a list that was shared with me and I need to get it to you in terms of those vendors who are going to be participating with us with the before and after school care.
So can we assure parents here on this call tonight that the number of spots and before and after school care at the number of locations that were provided last year will be the same, or is it going to be less?
It won't be less.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question.
Secretary Jones.
Yes, I'd like to make a special request. I'd like to ask if there are any companies or businesses that would be willing to provide gas cards for some of our unfortunate, some people that don't have or that are struggling, because there's so many of them, just like myself. Gas is so high and they want to get the children to school. If you could help out, that would really deeply be appreciated. Gas cards.
So it's safe to say Secretary Jones is doing a call to action for all the businesses that's willing to be a part of assisting the district. If you're willing to provide gas cards to the district to help with those that cannot, we are more than welcome to receive those to help the families that are not able. That'll be acceptable. Thank you, Secretary Jones.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have one more question. Ms. Akinola, you said you were finalizing agreements with vendors. I know you said you're going to meet with them tomorrow. Will all those agreements be finalized after tomorrow, or when will all the agreements with vendors be finalized?
We finalized the agreement. We're meeting face to face so that we can discuss the expectation we want, and then a communication plan, and the safety concerns that we have. That we met with them one-on-one, but we want the whole group so that everyone will be on the same page that this is what we're expecting from you. Business is not going to be business as usual. So
thank you. Just to clarify that they were.
Yeah.
Ms. Akinola, we kind of lost your beautiful face. Not sure what happened to you. You left us.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
But I do have a question for you.
Please, Ms. Jones. I just want some clarity about your question. When you're saying for those parents that are those parents that the students are not eligible for transportation?
Yes, because you talked about if they were perhaps a mile or so away, or there are a lot of parents who that probably won't qualify for bus transportation, but they still are going to have a problem getting their child to school. But I wanted to know, getting their child to school. I still wanted to know how we are going to monitor those students who no longer would be eligible because of perhaps they lived a few extra blocks away. And if they're going to be absent 4, 5, 6 times a month, or how, because that's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect the child most of all, the most important person of all. So I'm just really concerned that we keep a good count of, and then when we find out that they're absent, they're experiencing a lot of absences, that there will be someone there to help remedy the situation.
Yes, ma'am. At the school will be the schools will be responsible for taking attendance, and we will be tracking that report to see where we can render any assistance. But at this time, we just cannot accommodate any everyone.
This is Dr. Borche. I want to clarify a question that Board Member Weiss asked, and that do we have all of our vendors? If we find that we do not, we will be coming to the board for emergency action. I just want to clarify that, okay?
Thank you for that, Dr. Borche, because I did have a question. And maybe this is for Chief Watson, maybe this is for Chief Watson, maybe this is for Ms. Akinoka. This is honest. I need an honest answer from you both. On a scale from 1 to 10, where are you? How do you feel we are in regards to the back to school and transportation in this crisis? How comfortable do you all feel that we as a district is in a position to be prepared for this back to school? And what do you feel is needed, or do you feel that you have everything that is needed to get us to where we need to be?
So in regards to our readiness, and that includes ensuring that those students that are eligible receive transportation. I would probably say that we're around a 6.5. You know, as Dr. Borche just mentioned around, there's still some vendors that, as we're kind of going through the vetting process, that we're finding out just some inconsistencies with what they submitted in, and as we're kind of getting routes set up, as we finish out the conclusion of that information, there's a likelihood that we'll be coming back to the board requesting for potentially additional vendors just to support those eligible students. You know, I hear the conversations around safety around the buses and metro, and that's definitely a concern that we'll be we're taking heed to, in addition to creating safety committees. So some of the committees, the vetting process for our volunteers, we're not fully there yet. So my 6.5 is just because of those uncertainties, those unknowns, those variables that we haven't fully fleshed out. And as we kind of get closer to the finish line, August 19th, I think we'll be around an 8 or strong 9. But as of right now, we still have some process. We still have just a little bit ways to go to make sure that our volunteers are set in place, meaning that we need to identify those bus stops, those hot spots where we may have safety issues, ensuring that we have enough drivers and adequate vehicles. And so those components, in addition to a safety committee team that we're still pulling together, that consists of Ms. Akinola, Director of Transportation. We have the Director of Special Ed, Director of English Language Learners, some principal, student, parent groups. Those are still some of the things that we're still in the works prior to the start of school. But again, as we get closer to that August 19th, our goal is to make sure we communicate, provide update, be transparent. Let's name things. So where we are now with the routes, as I've learned to, this week, that we still don't have enough. We still won't cover all the routes. So all of those question marks, all of those areas that we know that we still need support in, is why I would rate us right now a 6.5, but we're working our way to 8 or 9.
Thank you for your honesty, Chief Watson. Is there anything that is needed in regards on the board behalf that we can provide or offer to help elevate you all and lean in and give you what you need to get you to where you're trying to get to?
Just your support in terms of and again, as we started looking at the routes that need to be covered, and as you all have been supportive not only of the budget, and all of these requests that we will bring before the board, even if it includes additional vendors, will not be a request for a budget increase. But just as we go through and potentially have an emergency RFP for additional vendors, that will be the one big ask. In addition to promoting the message to families about, opting out. So any families that have the capabilities of bringing their scholars to school, just sending out their word is another area that would help reduce the number of routes so that we can ultimately transport those students that definitely need transportation to and from, and that meet those eligibility criteria.
Thank you. Secretary Jones, it looks like you have something, ma'am.
Yeah, this is the last thing. I just want to remind
you're fine.
Just one reminder is that we have thousands of students that are homeless, and many of them are not officially homeless, where they're going to a shelter or something like that. They might have to go to grandma's house or someone else's house because of the terrible housing situation here in the city of St. Louis. We have such a poor quality of housing for families in this city. But we have a lot of students that are living just haphazardly. They're just trying to find some place to stay. And I just really hope that people will step up and really help those students, because they're already in a situation where they might not be sure of where they're going to lay their head from night to night. So let's keep that in mind too.
I just had one last question on the gap that there may be between people who are not able to receive bus service, who had been getting it before, and people who have vehicles or means of transportation. Do we have any data surrounding that? Have we done any sort of data searches on transportation availability within a student's home?
Please, can you repeat that question again? I'm sorry.
Sure. So some of the students who may have previously received bus services and will not be this year, do we have any data? And I guess it would probably just be self-reporting or a survey, but do we have any data on that gap that may exist between families who have cars and families who do not have access to their own transportation? Do we have any idea what the absentee rate is going to be, or is it going to be kind of just see what happens, find out? Or
no, ma'am. Yeah, we don't have any data.
Okay. I just want to make everyone aware of that gap that may exist, that, there are families who really do not have money for Metro, who, rely on walking to work or whatnot and can't afford a car or can't afford to tag and get a car legal in this city because of all the hoops to jump through. So that's just an additional parent challenge that our parents face. So I don't know if any of that is going to factor into how they're able to get their kids to school.
Miss Vowell, if I understood what you say, I'm not really clear, because all the students that are eligible for transportation are going to receive transportation one way or the other. The students, if you're referencing those students that are ineligible because of the neighborhood school, is that what you're referencing, or those students that are eligible, that live 1 mile and above from their school, their neighborhood school? I'm not really clear about your question, and so I know.
I can email it if you'd like, if that would help.
Okay. You're breaking.
Did you say you can email it if she like now?
Follow up with email.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions regarding transportation? Ms. Akinoka, the Chief Watson, the whole team that have been working diligently in regards to transportation, I want to commend you all. This is I know, wipe your head, baby. This is a lot. You all, Ms. Akinoka, you have been here way before I even got on this board. You have done the do. There was times you could have walked away on several moments. You've taken on a lot, and you've been steadfast in this process. So I want to commend you for your commitment to this district, your commitment to the children, and you trying to see this whole transportation process through. We see you, we see the work that you have done, the love that you have for this district. So I want to definitely give you your roses, and just thank you for your tireless work. Just keep up the good work, and we're definitely here to try to support you all as much as we can, because you can't do it alone, and neither can the other staff. And it's all about the children, and how do we ensure that we get our children safely to and from school. And that's what's important. So thank you for your commitment as always.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the support of the board, and I appreciate the support of my able superintendent, Dr. Scarlett. I really do. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's all about the students, and we will make sure that we will do whatever we can do in our capacity to ensure that our students match up with any student anywhere in the world when it comes to their education. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. With that said, we're going to go to the August consent agenda. Is there any questions regarding the August consent agenda? I don't even know.
I have hopefully a short one. For all the ones where it's like approve a slate of candidates in regards to X that are through our partnerships, are we going to get a list of all the people we're approving MOUs with?
Yes.
I think this might be Erin's question.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. So it will be similar to last month, where we're approving them in groups based off of those 4 student goal areas. So literacy, math, college and career readiness, and student health and well-being. So I'm gathering all of those MOUs together, and they will be uploaded into board docs along with that cover sheet so that you can see everything and read through all of those MOUs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Henny, I think this is you. I can't. Let me tell you all, this whole Zoom stuff just does not work for me. Dr. Dino, I think this may be you. This may be you or Dr. Henny. It's one of you all. It's not opening on my computer. I don't know. The consent agenda, I think it's the walk-on that was done in regards to the Harrison Center. Can you give me that number? Anybody? Can anybody help me? Is that you? Is that you, Dr. Henny?
Yes, it is.
Okay, here I am. I'm sorry. Okay. I had some questions, but I just wanted it to be kind of known what this is. Can you kind of tell the public a little bit about what it is that we're looking to do in regards to the Harrison Center and what the collaboration will look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really exciting. And as you know, we've had a long-standing partnership with St. Louis Community College. Basically, our partnership with them, our contract with them has fallen into two buckets. One bucket is dual credit, where we have our teachers teach courses, and then our students receive credit for high school and college for those courses. But then we have dual enrollment programs. And so some of those programs are like Early College Academy. Some of those programs are like our Access Point program, which gives our students the ability to take college courses taught by college professors related to computer science. Well, now we've been able to expand this program to the Harrison Center, which is right across the street from Vashon. So we are in kind of finalizing the planning for our students from Vashon to be able to take college courses starting first semester. We're going to focus first on some of the core classes they'll need for college, like their English class they can take as a dual enrollment course, but then second semester working with administration at the school and the networks to kind of figure out what are some of the additional courses that will enhance the programming at Vashon. So business courses are one of the things that is really part of the identity that they're working to form at Vashon. So starting from there, building that out, and then over the years developing just this really amazing opportunity for our kids to actually literally walk across the street and go to college. And we're going to support that by the St. Louis Community College has offered for free to us to allow us to put our some support staff in there. So we're going to have our workforce coordinator and some CTE specialists actually working out of the Harrison Center. So we have SLPS staff supporting students while they're there, so additional support, and then also providing additional opportunities, workforce opportunities. I see you, Ms. Jones. Yeah, it's really exciting. So yeah, just really exciting work. And I've been just very humbled to be a part of this. I know a lot of other people. I know it's been the vision of Dr. Scarlett and some others who have really been pushing this, and it's just been an honor for me to be a part of seeing this come into fruition. Dr. Borishade as well. So yeah, just it's really exciting for our young people. And it's one of those things where I think we're going to see not just our students benefiting, but the community as a whole. One of the things that I submitted is a letter of support. So from the Jeff Vanderloo neighborhood, I've kind of stayed in contact with them from my past time at Vashon and my time at Dunbar. And they've kind of walked alongside of us the whole step of the way, giving input and giving context and support for this as well. So
yeah, I want to thank you, Dr. Henny, and I do want to commend the Alexanders and that group because I know they really worked hard and diligently for this to actually come to fruition. So I wanted to make sure that people knew the work and collaboration that it took for this to happen. I also want to ask, I saw that it was saying for Vashon students that will be able to do the dual enrollment. Is this only for the Vashon students, or will other students have the ability to take part in this?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Doctor. I was just going to say,
no, go ahead, Dr.
this initial group is for the Vashon students at the Harrison Center, but the general dual enrollment components that St. Louis Public Schools has always had with the community college will continue to be available for other students as well. But this Harrison component right now is targeted specifically towards Vashon students.
Okay. Thank you. And that is just for the record. I'll thank you for everyone who finally sent that over. I was able to finally download the consent agenda. That is 08-13-2410. And then I did want to ask one other on 08-13-2405. And I'm sure this is you too. And Dr. Henny, I'm going to lower your time because you like to, give us a little extra talking. But that's the Class E. Miller Cyber Academy Summer Camp. I see that's a $5,000 donation. Can someone talk about a little bit more about what that is? Or is that Aaron? Is that Dr. Dino? That's Aaron.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that donation, we had 2 educators from Clyde C. Miller, who's in the Cyber Academy. They worked with Ameren to submit that grant. It is a grant that would be earmarked specifically for summer camp at Clyde C. Miller for the upcoming year, and it can go to enhance their tech, do student field trips, whatever the leaders of that camp decide.
Well, congratulations. Did they apply for that grant or you applied for that grant?
They applied for that grant. I've just been pulled in on the backside.
Congratulations. That's good to see, good to hear, and good to know. That's all I have. Does anyone else have any questions regarding August consent agenda?
I do just real quick, back to the Harrison Center and the dual enrollment. Is the cost associated with that, is that just the normal cost, basically the tuition costs that we pay for all the dual enrollment courses?
Yeah, that there's no increase in cost for that as it relates to this program. It will be the same as it were for the other pieces.
Okay, great. And yeah, again, I just also want to echo, the dual enrollment program and the Access Point. Don't want to forget Access Point. We had a valedictorian. I learned about Access Point from a valedictorian. I don't know, Soldan or Gateway, but also great programs. I mean, really just what a great benefit to our students and our taxpayers. I mean, students are earning college credit for free while they're in high school, and they're graduating with, tens of thousands of dollars worth of an education that they can go directly into. And some people with associate's degrees, amazing.
Is that here at St. Louis Public School? Vice President Davis, we do that.
You know what, Ms. Cousins? We have so many college programs and career and technical programs in every single high school. Anybody that says otherwise is an absolute liar. And I don't know who would say that. So my only other question is, President Cousins, I wanted to ask if we could refer 8-13-2401, which is the updated Sunshine Law policy, to the governance committee.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all.
So we're going to refer, say it again, I'm sorry. I dropped it.
It's the first one, 01.
I think we need a motion to amend the consent agenda to remove that item specifically.
I don't know if we need a motion to refer to committee, but I'll make a motion to refer 8-13-2401 to the governance committee with the promise we'll try to get it back by the next meeting.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Hammond?
Mr. Hikes?
You're on mute, sir.
It's on the motion. Is that correct?
Ms. Weiss? Ms. Weiss?
Sorry, yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowl?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, everyone. Is there any board reports? Or clearly we have a report. We are here at the at the Harvard PELP conference, which is why you see we are on Zoom. There's a lot of engaging activities that is going on. I am proud to say that I have been a part of some interesting activities that have been going on with Dr. Borshade and Chief Watson, as well as Colonel Davis. They have been doing an outstanding job in regards to the EOP. I see the work that you all are doing in regards to the emergency operating plan, and I'm impressed with the things that are coming in regards to the district moving in an outstanding direction. So I want to commend the work that you all have been doing in regards to that. As I stated, I am here with other board members, and we are working and learning a lot. And hopefully, board member Hikes will be bringing back some interesting information. He's been very engaged in being a superstar representing St. Louis Public Schools on the work. So I'm sure he'll be showing us some theories of change on some things that we have to come. That's all I have. Is there anyone else with board report?
I wanted to report that I went to the Urban League Expo with my one extrovert child. And it was really great. And I wanted to thank everyone involved. It was really great to see so many of our staff there. And it was just a good experience to be with our community. So thanks to everyone.
Vice President Davis, I know that you all have been working on the governance. Is there anything you wanted to report in regards to the governance committee?
I just want we'll now be just looking at two policies, and the reason I asked to have that referred to the governance committee is that we are moving to the next phase of, and I know I talk about this, and I've talked about this for almost a year now, the next phase of the MSBA policy project, in which they've reported to us that they have begun as a team, and really it's the entire policy team at MSBA who are now looking at all of our policies. And so we'll begin that process of them referring things back to us and assigning to certain departments, which will, need to be as quick a turnaround as possible while we do everything else. But the policies being so outdated is just an absolute priority. And so the reason I asked to have that referred is that they have asked us, if, as we are going to be adopting new policies, we're kind of in a phase where we need to at least give them a heads up so they can double check and make sure they're not doing anything that's conflicting with the things that we're doing, because obviously there are things like the Sunshine Law policy, the board vacancy policy, which we're also hoping to pass out of governance committee now that that's been revised, that we have to do. So that's sort of the dynamic of where we are on that. So hopefully we're slowly but surely moving towards that massive undertaking.
Are there any other board reports?
Yes, I would just like to say I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to come here. I think I've learned a lot to allow me to be a better board member, because I've been on the board for a year now, and it seems like it's still a lot of things I need to learn. So I just want to let them know I really appreciate them allowing me to come.
I will echo that very briefly. I'm here as well at the Accelerating Board Capacity Institute, and it's been wonderful connecting with not only the other board members with SLPS on our team, but board members from other parts of the country. Learning a ton. It's been a very valuable experience for me, so thank you.
Any other reports? Hearing none, I need a motion to close.
I'll make a motion
session and go into closed session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn open session and go into closed session in accordance or pursuant to the Missouri Revised Statute, Section 610021, 1, 2, 3, and 13 for the discussion of personnel, legal, and real estate matters.
Second.
Ms. Hammond.
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard, Ms.
Yes.
Fowl,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins,
Yes.
meeting adjourned.